Thanks, Julie. All right, everyone, we are now live on YouTube. So let's start our meeting. Let's pull up our agenda. Start with our opening. The healing social life is found when in the mirror of each human soul, the whole community finds its reflection, and when in the community, the virtue of each one is living. All right, let's move on to excitement sharing. Who has excitement to share?
I have excitement to share. It is the 37th anniversary of my husband and my first date. We met each other in college in 1983. It was my first semester in college, and our first date was on November 19th, and we celebrate that every year. And he's in California. He's in the place that we met. So anyways, we're virtually celebrating tonight.
I have one. Actually, I have two. One is Isaac is being featured in the museum for kids of art, which is really awesome. And two, we had a Zoom for his school, for he and Elijah's school, and they had all these games and everything, and you could win turkeys. And well, he won us a turkey, so it's pretty awesome.
My excitement is that Miss Lisa is back. And also, I do have to share that excitement with Miss Robichaux's Tiger Talk, because the first thing that my kindergartner said to me when I got home was that there was a new Tiger Talk about the Lantern Walk. And then my husband just told me 5 minutes ago that he watched that Tiger Talk 30 times. So, so Miss Lisa and Miss Robichaux for my excitement.
I'm very excited to actually be at a meeting. I have been up for 2 days, so if I drift off, don't take it personally. Officially, there's another person sharing my job with me, so I'm not the only birth assistant at my work anymore. So that's very exciting to not be the only person on call anymore. Although the person is now going out of state for 3 weeks. So I had a week off and now I'm back.
Megan, it's so good to see your face, even though it's a very sleepy face. So thank you for coming.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
My excitement is, as I mentioned, Rosie and I have been skiing while Miles skis, and it's just been the best. I love it so much. She talks to me the whole time. I wear it in the backpack, and she loves it. And she likes to reach over and grab onto the branches and pull snow down on my head and wave at people. And you know, we have heard owls and seen rabbits, and it's just totally magical. So I don't know. I continue to love getting to have a baby again. It's just really, really fun. Although she's walking now, so she's more of a toddler at this point, but it's just really fun, and it helps me keep in perspective the stuff that's really important, like getting fresh air and going outside. So that is my excitement, just the simple things.
I'll jump on that train, Susanna. We went up to Byers Lake cabin, the Forest Service cabin out there last week, and it's just super fun to be surrounded by that much snow and kids out on snowshoes. And I'm a big winter person, so sharing that with the family is pretty awesome.
So good. This is Jessie. I'll share too. Excitement of being active outside. I last year had a health situation that really limited my mobility, and it was something I kept very private and have had to deal with. And I'm doing a lot better. and about 3 months ago started on a path to start running again, and now run 3 days a week and walk all the other days. But I run with a dear friend, and we're doing interval work, and it's wonderful, and it's just really empowering, and being outside in the light, just really counting my blessings and really thankful to be regaining health and movement.
This is Sue, aka Dorothy Rowie Armstrong. I can't rename myself for some reason. And my excitement is that my husband is home finally after, I guess, 3 weeks or something like that. So I can take a little breath. He made dinner tonight and it was really yummy. And I hopefully won't get interrupted. And the kids can show John all the stuff they've been doing at school while I'm at work. So that's really great. And then we finally, after however many years of living here, have signed the 2 younger ones up for junior Nordic. So it's been on the list to do for 10 years. And I finally decided to just, what the heck? Neither one of them is excited about doing it, but they're going to do it because we live in Alaska. So, and they have to go at 2 different times. So it's always fun in this Armstrong household. Shh. Sorry.
So for me, after 4 years of being the chair for the education branch of our state's Association of Fundraising Professionals, December is my last month heading that up. That will be a significant monthly requirement that's been going for 4 years that will pass away into history. So I'm excited for that.
I can go next. I'm just excited that we're all healthy and getting outside a little bit. I just came back in from a long walk, and the girls were playing on a big snow pile, and it got really cold, and I just took a hot shower, and I'm just feeling really relaxed and very grateful to be here. So nothing really overly exciting other than just, living and keeping people healthy and getting through this interesting period that we're in. So.
Barring any more excitement sharing, shall we move on? If you have excitement to share, speak now or forever hold your peace. All right.
I'll talk real quick, real quick. I have 4 boys, and my second youngest, he's about to turn 4, and I just can't believe he is so clever and vivacious, and he's just a little man. People describe him like a little man, and I'm just happy he's doing so well. Despite all of this stuff, no friends to play with, just his brothers in the house every day. He's doing great. All my kids are doing pretty well, given the circumstances. And the kids have their own, little energies, and it just, nothing can stamp it out. It seems like the cold weather, the dark, the isolation. So I'm really grateful that I have those guys to serve as an example for me. So.
Thank you, everyone. I don't know about you, but I feel like this was very rejuvenating to hear all your excitement, in particular today. It's so dark outside, and it's just really nice to hear everyone's thoughts. Thank you. All right. let us move on to approval of the minutes. Did we receive the minutes? Molly, you probably sent them right after the last meeting, if I had to guess.
I did, yes.
Okay. I should have attached them to the email. Does everyone need a moment to look at them, or Molly, maybe you could screen share them?
I can screen share them. Give me just a minute.
Okay.
Pull them up here. Sorry, I almost have them. Was that enough time to read them? Yeah, okay.
I move to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Hi, folks. Sorry, we have a directions issue right now. All right, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Sue moved to approve the minutes and Sarah Glasser seconded that move.
All right, thank you. All in favor? All right. Let's move on to approving the agenda. So Molly, I just wanted really quick, you had said in your email about putting as an action item the committee. I'm happy to have discussion about that, but I think we should hold off until December to form a committee because I think a lot can change for third quarter discussions between now and then. So I think unless people want to have preliminary talks about it. Am I making sense here?
Yes, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think the idea for the committee was to create a survey to get out to the community. But Julie could speak to that better than me.
Okay. Yeah, I think unless anyone has a strong objection, I think we don't need to do that this meeting, but I think next meeting it would be good to visit that. But if someone feels differently, now's a good time to say that.
Susanna, this is Jessie. Unfortunately, I don't have a good grounding on the question. Just kind of for the rest of the board to understand what your question is.
Got it. My question is, should we add an agenda item to the agenda that we are going to approve right now to form a temporary committee to discuss Winterberry live non-virtual options for the third order based on an email that Molly sent when sending out the minutes.
Thank you.
Well, that's part of the administrator's report. And
Mhm.
I think next month is too late. Next month is December, and it will be about 10 days or 2 weeks between next week's meeting and the beginning of third quarter. So I really don't think that's a timely manner.
Okay. Lisa?
I just wanted to kind of add to what Molly's saying. So the second quarter ends right before we go on winter break. If we are going to be having discussions about or taking a survey for families about what is, going to be happening for third quarter, we should probably do it before the December meeting, because the quarter will be ending and we'll want to have that information out to families, what our decision is.
Okay.
At that time.
That makes total sense. In my mind, I was thinking January is so far away, but honestly, it's not. So if we would like to add, can I get a motion to add that to the agenda? How should we, to add a new agenda item to this current agenda before approving it?
I move to add an agenda item for committee work to the agenda as presented.
Okay. Does anyone second that?
This is Sue, I second.
All right, so can I twinkle to approve the amended agenda? All right, let's move on. Thank you, everyone. To community comments. Please note, this is the public's time to talk and the board's time to listen. Winterberry Charter Council does not hear complaints against students or personnel in public session. It is not the board's practice to engage in discussion or to answer questions during community comments. Commenters' names will be recorded in the minutes. Thank you. Do we have any community comments? All right, let's move on to the principal's report.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. And let's see here. Principal's report. Let me pull this down. All right. Does everyone see that? Give me a little twinkle if you can see. Okay. All right. So I added to my report this month our mission and our vision, because I was going through the charter just, like I do. And I thought, yeah, it's good for us to be, for our board, for all of our boards to be really familiar with our charter, and also just about the variety of things that we do and how we do it and why we do it and why we say we do it and all those things. So Winterberry's mission: growing the innate potential of each child. Winterberry's vision: to receive the children in reverence, educate them in love, and send them forth in freedom, which is a Steiner quote. Just, in the format that I usually present, the heart, hands, and head format, our Winterberry community continues to stay connected with our parents and our teachers and our staff with ongoing contact. Our ongoing contact that our teachers have with their class parents, and that our administrative staff has with parents that call and email us in the office area. And then also just from just the pickup, from during pickup, and when families come in every day in a variety of forms and pick up things for their children. And it's really nice just to see them in a distanced way and in just a a 3D in 3D, as we say. Another item from the heart side is that Miss Lisa is back from leave, and she's getting to know her kinder families, and they're very, very happy to have her among them. And I'm just already hearing really sweet things from them. Mr. Crawford put together a virtual lantern walk with music and photos that I think we sent it out on Winterberry Business, maybe either today or last week. Well, it must have been today. And anyway, it was, and many of you got it from your class teachers. Again, like materials, there's all kinds of materials for families to pick up: lantern walk, materials for main lesson work, jump ropes, handwork. It's just this ongoing little factory of class projects and really fun things that are happening. Very busy times. Winterberry Pantry in the little vestibule area of our school is a little shelf that Ms. Colleen and I set up, and people come and generously donate all kinds of things. And we've got, I think, a turkey or so in the freezer, and we just, as needed or as requested, we give our, we give families any, whatever food they need, and we take, any kinds of requests that they have as far as food, provide them with anything that they request. And we sometimes drop it off at their house if they can't get in, and other times they just pick it up. Just a little side story of a family that came in and having some food insecurity on a Friday before a weekend, and they picked up some things that they needed, and they came back and at the kind of mid end of the next week and said, actually, we're fine now, because we said, do you need any more food? And they said, actually, we're fine now, and we would like to bring and contribute something back. So we'll be back in a few days and bring some things back to share with other people. So it's a beautiful circular offering. We are collecting winter gear, and Miss Colleen washes that up and hangs it. And our greatest need now is grades 3 through 8. We have a lot of things for littles, but we need some older kid clothing. Also, thanks to the NSAA for their generous donation with in food. They had a project they were going to do in the bush, and they had a bunch of food and snacks they were going to bring out there, and that project got canceled, so they donated their food to Winterberry. We just gratitude in all the hands and participation from our parents in our student learning. We fully understand that it's a huge undertaking for parents this year, an undertaking that they in no way, shape, or form asked for. And we just want to, feel really grateful for them. And, it ties up the parent education piece that I was hoping for this year. Sorry, just such a great, the silver lining in all of this. Shane and I are working on the budget for next year with the district. So that's clipping right along. She'll talk about that in her business manager report. Our teacher conferences went really well. We had high attendance and really great communication with families, where the teachers got to find out from each family individually their needs, their academic, their social emotional, their technological, their food needs. Any needs were identified and kind of mined from those conferences, and they went very well. And we have taken that information and have been working with it to make sure that those needs get met. Good attendance overall with virtual offerings in comparison to our district counterparts, who are really complaining a lot about that. Families are doing what they can do, and we fully understand that. But in most classes, there is a very high percentage of children that are showing up each day and doing what they have been asked to do, and that's reflected in their in their work back to their teacher in different ways. and we really appreciate that. Our noon Zoom with our specialty teachers was a great hit, and we will do more noon Zooms down the road, featuring different kinds of subjects with our entire Winterberry community. It seems to be something that people enjoy, and noon is a good time. So we'll continue with that. We created a needs committee based on a few things. Really, from the beginning of the school year, we kind of have kept in our, on a list the families that we really felt were requesting help in different areas or support. But we have a committee, what we call the needs committee, and we met twice this last week, and certain teachers take on certain support and added support for students who are needing maybe more kind of socializing groups with their small groups of friends, maybe more direct help with getting on to their main lesson and doing their work or getting kind of motivated to do that. So in a variety of ways. Mr. Lin started a music club, and that's going to be really fun as he develops that. And Maestro Baker is doing some things in drama and readers theater and things like that with the upper grades. Looking ahead, a plan for third quarter and the request for a committee. And I do, time, we give Ms. Robichaux sort of a hard time because she always wants to plan really far in advance, and we call it Robichauing it. And it isn't really Robichauing it if it's the middle of November, and January is going to be here in no time. So it would be a great thing if we could get together and have some board participation in the kind of seeing what we would like to do and what we're looking to do with our whole community going forward, starting in January, which is right here. Little quote that I'll end with: the heart of the Waldorf method is that education is an art. It must speak to the child's experience. To educate the whole child, his heart and his will must be reached, as well as the mind. That's by Mr. Steiner. So that is it, and I'll stop sharing my screen if anyone has any questions.
That was a great report. Thank you. That was a good one.
Well, good.
I really appreciated hearing the ways that our school community is being served by the rest of the community, and also by the teachers and the faculty and everybody. So I just really commend your leadership in this, and also the community as a whole for supporting each other right now, because we are in extraordinary times. So it's good to hear these stories of our community connecting virtually. It's really good to hear. It sounds like the needs committee is exactly what is needed, but is there a way that the board can support you in supporting this community in a way that is not happening right now?
I don't think so. I think that the needs get identified mostly directly through either the class teacher, who has a well-developed relationship with the families, or usually Miss Colleen, who is the center of the wheel, and families feel comfortable talking to her, and she knows kind of their stories and the things that they need. And but thank you, and I'll definitely reach out if there's something that the board can help with.
Okay. Julie, I was just wondering, with the needs committee, is that a group of teachers?
Teachers and staff. So it's our teachers and our support staff, our TAs, and it's really it's almost it's mostly our specialty teachers, because we have an ability to, specialty teachers have and they've sort of been asked through some just looking at what is being accessed as far as their offerings and things, to find room and to pair their offerings to families that are very simple and kind of basic, and then create room in their weekly schedule to support, to directly support small groups or individual students. So, and in the greater district, specialty teachers have been turned into generalists. So they've, Spanish teachers, music teachers, they no longer are doing their specialty. They're generalists, and I decided not to do that, because we really value the offerings that our specialty teachers bring to us, specifically in Waldorf education. And so with that, we have come up with a compromise so that they can offer their specialty, but then they also can create some space in their weekly schedule to essentially act as a generalist and work to support students in a variety of ways.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions for Julie? All right, thank you, Julie. Let's move on to our faculty report.
Sorry. Most of what faculty would like to bring this week is just extreme, deep, and wide gratitude. Please request record permission. Oh, I don't know, I'm getting weird messages here. But deep gratitude to the boards and the parents who are involved in the boards for the work that they're doing in board work, but also the work that you're doing in your families. It's a huge task to be taking on the schooling, and we recognize that and honor that. So we're holding parents and families in deep gratitude. And we also wanted to share that the faculty is very deeply committed and determined to both broaden and strengthen the support webs that we're providing to our families at this time. It's something that's super important to us. And other than that, Julie has done a really great job of capturing a picture of the school. Teachers are working really hard, trying to stay focused to make sure that we're bringing the best content that we possibly can. So that is the faculty report, unless Sarah wants to add anything. Any questions?
I think that's no, if there's no questions, we can move on. Thank you. And it's a two-way street. I mean, I feel appreciated by my son's teacher as well. I feel very supported, and I just commend the faculty at Winterberry. This is a monumental task, and you guys are killing it. Truly. All right, let's move on to the WPG report. Jesse, are you available to give that report? I think Jesse is driving right now. So can we come back to that? That might be easier.
I'm so sorry. I was talking. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, I can hear you now.
scooped. I'm so sorry. Okay. So WPG, we had a great meeting earlier this month. And as you can imagine, parents were sharing a lot of gratitude to our faculty. And so all the comments I just heard, I can't agree with more. And, you know, we're just feeling very, very grateful to have such an incredible community. I want to also recognize the WCC and faculty for 100% participation with the garden campaign. We saw extraordinary support for that campaign. Of course, it's a huge focus of the WPG each and every year in order to support the professional development of our staff at our school. And definitely want to recognize Iris for her leadership behind that campaign. She did a beautiful job, and with Kelly's graphics work and just a lot of really solid teamwork in order to get the messaging out. And again, to this board, thank you very much for your 100% participation and support. The WPG is, of course, interested and still talking about, you know, what shape some additional fundraising efforts might take, given, you know, this new world that we're living in, to be continued on those discussions. There's also a lot of energy within WPG around how best to support families, the needs committee work. You know, Principal Pepe Phelps did a fantastic job outlining, you know, what she and her staff are doing to support those families. And there's just a lot of energy within that parent body to try and do more however possible. So I'd expect that there's going to be more energy poured into that here as the holidays approach. And that's my report. I'm open to any questions there might be. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jessie. All right, let us move on to the safety committee. Is there anything to report from the safety committee?
Yeah, our SRO officer was at school the other day, just letting us know that he tours around the parking lot, and there's been a homeless man who there's just different homeless people through the years, but lately who's been around, and he just wanted us to know that he's, you know, paying attention to what's happening on the grounds, and that I contacted him because we kind of felt like somebody had been in the sheds, and he came over, you know, it was like 5 minutes and he was there. So we were really happy that he was so attentive. And anyhow, it was, so I guess that it would have something to do with safety, and there we go.
Was anything taken from the sheds?
No, not really. There's a little bin of where there's candles and, you know, kind of like duct tape and sort of survivor stuff that was sort of gone through and messed around with. But no, nothing was missing. It's just, I think he was maybe sleeping in the shed just because he had no place to sleep. And I can only imagine, even walking out to my car, it's almost more than I sometimes can deal with if I'm not dressed warmly enough. So holding a thought for the people that are outside right now. Anyway.
Julie, I assume that the SRO officer knows about calling 311 if they do find somebody who's, you know, passed out or sleeping outdoors. You know, this weather, it can be really lethal. So, you know, 311 is a good resource, and I'm sure that the SRO person knows that, but just thought I'd mention it.
Yeah, and just to be clear about what an SRO is, they're an Anchorage Police Department officer.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that are assigned to schools. So he's an actual APD officer, and so he's got all the, he's got all the know-how. Anyway, so thank you for that, though. That's good, a good reminder just for us too.
Yeah, thank you. Moving on, outdoor play space. Is there any updates right now?
Well, as a matter of fact, there is an update because I am eagerly seeking a family with adults mainly at this point that knows how to put together an ice rink so that we can put together our ice rink. I did not collect leaves in bags, which what happened last year, to berm it up, but I thought we could just berm it with snow. We have our tarp. So if anybody has any homemade ice rink experience, please step forward. Do not be shy. And then we want to get our 8th graders kind of on a rotating basis, maybe the families to hot mop and things like that, because they got a little training from the 8th graders from last year who were maintaining it in the spring. So anyhow, if anybody has, or they want to study up on a YouTube video and give it a try, we are ready to, we have all the things that you need for it. So we just would like somebody, and I think that would be really fun, something to have, ready and going for anyone to come in for either the spring semester or for just families that come into the yard to play through the time.
Julie, what's your turnaround time for that? Like would it be okay now, or?
Oh yeah. No, anytime.
We didn't put one in our backyard this year, so I will ask the husband if he would be interested in doing that, since he's home until December. So
nice. Well, we have everything. We could even get helpers if he directed people to say, shovel and make a berm, and then I'll do whatever if he'll do that, then
do you have a hot mop?
We don't have a hot mop. We have a garbage can and a shower that has hot water and mops.
Okay, because he rigged something up last time, so I won't say any more. I will go and make the request.
No.
And
it is being recorded though, so John Armstrong
he's taking care of the 3 children, and the football game's on.
Okay, we'll leave it at that for right now. And I don't know if there's anything, if Alliance is still on the agenda, but I did go to the Alliance Leadership Monday this month for the first time. I've been wanting to go since the summer, and I did tune in to it's a nationwide Alliance, mostly West Coast, Alliance principals meeting on Mondays at noon our time. And so I went to the Alliance meeting. So, I'm going to keep Alliance on there. I remember we said kick it off, but now all of a sudden we're all about Alliance again. So anyway, it was good.
I put it on stasis, so it will still be on there, and it'll be like an invisible entity. And if someone wants to recognize it, that's fine, but it's not part of our regular rotation at this point. Thank you, Julie. Moving on to legislative policy.
This is Jessie. Can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
good. So, okay, good. Thank you. I just wanted to say, there is no particular legislation for me to report on. The one thing I do think bears mentioning, though, is, Miss Julie alluded to the fact that we have such strong participation right now, and that's something that internally we can celebrate. It is, however, not the overarching trend in our district and in other districts. We're seeing lower participation in public education in general. A lot of families who, for one reason or another, their children are not participating, or they have opted to move into more of a private education scenario. And those factors are going to play into, I think, the scenarios we're going to be looking at in the upcoming legislative session and budget concerns. Because as we know, especially being a charter school, those budgets are very much so tied to student count. So, just that's my one piece to note right now. Very interested in seeing what lies within the governor's budget. That's not due to be released until December 15th, so more on that later, most likely our January meeting. And, any sort of early release of legislation, we'll be looking at that to see if, if there's anything there that relates to our work as a board as well. Thank you.
I just like to follow up on that by saying that is very true. And we have some charter school counterparts that are in not great shape because they've lost a large number of, based on decisions that they've made for their community, they have lost a large number of their population. And for a charter school, that's a dangerous place to be.
Thank you, Jesse and Julie. All right, let's move on to budget.
Okay, so I emailed everybody my budget report. Julie, I don't know if you were able to bring it up, but if not, I still have it in front of me. So let's wait till she. Should be in the most recent email reply.
Yeah. Let me think. I have it down in my have it in my Word. Hold on. I got so much going on my screen now. Oh gosh. Okay. Hold on. WCC.
There we go, right there. Yeah, not the agenda, the report.
I'm sorry. Okay.
No, it's okay.
There we go. Not principal's report.
Yep, budget report, right in front of you. Take a right.
Take a right. Right.
All the right way. There you go.
Right here. This one.
Yep. That one.
We have a lot of fun.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So our fiscal year 21 OASIS just ended the end of October 23rd. We received our numbers. Our actual count of OASIS was 250.95. That's based on the average of that 4-week period of what we've had as far as enrollment and registered students. We estimated for our budget purposes, we would have 250. So we met that and exceeded slightly. Good for us because as Julie pointed out, unfortunately, there's been several charter schools that haven't been as lucky as we have. We did receive additional special education intensive needs funding, giving us a total of what we're receiving back for additional funds for fiscal year 21 budget of $194,980. So that will be put in our budget and used for the purposes of what they're needed for. Our fiscal year 21 charter school budget projection is attached. So that tells us the breakdown, which is I put on it's on the second email. You guys can look at that. It's just what all the other charter schools breakdown was, and then where we met. You've seen that same one before, and this is just the updated one, which shows us that they've distributed the $194,980. If you're curious, it also has on there what the other charter schools have done, and where their deficit is as well. Our CARES Act grant. So where we're at in the CARES Act grant is we received 56,614. Currently, we have $36,271.50 available. We used roughly, as it looks like, a little over $20,000 for the curriculum that we used for our earth schooling, which is what we chose. The remaining we have not used yet, which then will be determined probably for additional PPE, things that we find needed that fall within the grant, the CARES Act grant. Fiscal year 2020 budget. I still haven't received the numbers. We did, Julie submitted to the Anchorage, to ASD's finance department, what our estimated is going to be next year. I believe we're going to stick to what our same estimate of 250, as it seemed to work well. It's kind of a balance of, you don't want to overestimate, because then they're going to take money back and you're going to have to figure out where to take it from. And you don't want to underestimate, as then it makes it difficult to create a budget from that. So hopefully we'll be expecting those new final or preliminary budget numbers for the fiscal year 2022. Oh my gosh, any day now. Things we need to consider that Julie and I will need to consider, just so you guys are aware, is that the new, there is not yet a new AEA teacher contract. So we'll need to consider the increase of salary there, as well as there's no new totem contract, which is our AA and our TAs. So more than likely they will receive somewhat of an increase. So we'll need to calculate those things, and they might have a increase in medical costs as well. So any questions?
I was just wondering what the SPED intensive needs funding is used for.
So that'll actually be determined by Principal Pepe. But what it is for is, there are a couple students we have that have been identified that have more needs than what a standard special ed student will have. So what we get is additional funding to allocate for those particular students, whether it be a particular student, and I'm not going to say, this is just thrown out there, that if maybe a particular student has a behavioral issue that is part of their special needs, or they need some more one-on-one, something that a TA can't do with small groups, then they've been identified as special needs, and that money goes towards either hiring a TA part-time, or various things, depending on what their needs are. And that gets determined by their individual education plan that is designated between the SPED teacher, principal, as well as their classroom teacher, on what they need. And then that's what those funds are for.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Shayna, I was wondering if you could walk us through this other document that you sent out, the projected annual funding, mostly because I've just been looking through it. And the one I had a question about was for us, the net funding adjustments. Could you shed some light on that? That 102,000.
So the net change,
yeah,
that's the net funding that we got. That's the additional funding we received. So if you look where it's the initial funding for fiscal year, where it says it's the 2.8 million, so 285. I think I need my glasses here. That was what our additional, we created our budget off of. Okay. Then they did the OASIS or count, and then they did different different figures and everything, and figured out that actually with our new OASIS and then some of our special needs students, we received, we should have gotten a budget of 3 million, 3.02. And so then the difference is the 94th is what we netted, the 194,980.
Got it. Okay, and that also explains why family partnership got a crazy high amount of, okay.
And if you look at the number underneath, that's actually what we get, if you're curious, that's our ADM. So that would be our average, basically what we get per student. It's after we get all their state funding, our federal funding, and we get it adjusted based on our school size because we have a smaller school. So that's what currently, and it does change, like I said, based on school size. So the more students we have, the less funding we get per student. But that's where we're at as far as our student count, which you can, as far as the what we get per student. And if you look at family partnership, they only get 6,855 because or 455 because their school, they have more students. Therefore, they get, even though they get more money, they get less per student. It has to do with distributing the cost to the overhead. The more students you have, the less, you still don't need as much as overhead.
And just to interject, they're also they're in the correspondence category, so they only get 90% funding for every student.
Oh, I just looked at that. Okay.
Yeah, that is,
okay.
And that is calculated in all of that as well.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty, this does not look like how it's looked in the past. It's pretty nuts.
It's complicated. Yeah.
I usually, and a few times in the past, I've simplified it or just kind of draw attention to ours. So it's not so much. But I thought it was interesting for everybody else to see, what a family partnership or Frontier has done, being that they have more of a remote. You can see the opportunity of what hybrid could be.
And Andy Ratcliffe, when he wasn't the director of what he is doing now, he came to speak to our WCC a certain amount of years ago, and I know that he would also he would come back, and I remember sitting there having a little bit of a finance background and listening very carefully, taking a lot of notes, and feeling like, okay, well, wow, that's because there's portions of things and funding percentages that we get, and only as things kind of sift out. And again, like we get a certain amount of funding, up to a certain number, and then you capture the greatest amount of funding up to, like, I don't know, it used to be, I think, around 150 students. And then from then on, you got less per student, but still it's funding. You're still getting, and they have formulas that go along with everything. So it is a complicated system.
And just so you know, this is the same format. So standard neighborhood schools, they don't get, they're, as we all know, they don't receive this kind of their funding this way. Okay, they just get supplies and things like that based on their how many students they have. However, this was created to mirror what all the districts receive and how they receive their funding, minus the 4%. If you can see the indirect cost of 4% that we pay to the Anchorage School District for our for basically all of the overhead. They take care of all the payroll, the HR, things like that. And that's so the indirect 4%. So we pay the Anchorage School District I think it's say 182,474. I can't. Or is it 102? I think it's 102.
Right here? Yeah. 102,474.
Yeah, and that's our indirect cost. So that's basically, and that's for the operation, maintenance, any of the overhead that they do at the school district. And that's the max they're allowed to take. That's a mandate. And then the other page will show you what our actual OASIS numbers are.
And that's, excuse me.
Roll down, yeah. At the top will tell us our OASIS numbers of the two, you see the 290.
hold on. Hold on. Okay. Where are we? Okay.
Okay. Or I'm sorry, the 250.95. That's our Oasis numbers.
Right here.
And then you could see that Family Partnership and Frontier, how they get theirs is in a separate category. So theirs is adjusted because each student isn't a 1.0, each student is a 0.9.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I just have a question about the Family Partnership and Frontiers. Are these numbers showing that more people are homeschooling their children now than in the past? Is that what is that what the upshot of this is in part?
So a lot of the schools, in Anchorage School District too, I don't know if you read up on it when we all went to, started to go remote, a lot of families pulled their kids from what the ASD was doing for their virtual, and a lot of charter school families pulled to do the Frontier or Family Partnership. Unfortunately, I don't believe, at least one of them didn't have a max on how many students they could allow. So they just filled up and so
then they had a special board meeting actually to put a cap on that because they hadn't had a cap because it didn't seem like it was an issue before. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, we're getting more children than I think, what do they have? What is it? 1,600 families that they have. And I think they usually have 600, 700.
Yeah, I can pull up what they've had in the past, but this is what we've seen just for this year. I would speculate, depending on how next year goes and how this pandemic goes, that we would probably see some going, but I think their numbers are going to still stay high. I think there's a new flip on things.
Mm-hmm. And that's good for our hybrid program.
Mm-hmm.
I guess just to try to understand that a little better, I mean, is it people are doing that because they're home anyway and it's just easier to homeschool the kid than to drive them to a charter school? Like,
no, this is COVID related completely. This is what we saw the drive of COVID because they had no choice and they figured, well, at least the ones that I know that done it felt that they've had more control versus what they were being offered, say in the spring. Some of them didn't feel their child being fulfilled with the spring, thought everything was going to be the same, and chose alternative routes and thought of them homeschooling. If they're going to homeschool, they might as well do the full thing. Julie, is that?
Yeah, I would say that. And also, I think that parents really wanted to make the decision to stay home all year, and they did not want to be at the mercy of schools going back, schools closing, schools going back. And they thought, I'm taking my child and I'm going to homeschool them. And that's what we're going to do this year. And whereas they didn't know if they would have that option in their, I mean, it was unprecedented what happened with our homeschool programs in our charter schools. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's where we were very fortunate, especially with Julie, understanding that and sending it out to our families that is not something that we're planning on doing. If they want to stay home, we will continue with the same curriculum that we have and let it be their option. And I think that is why we didn't see a whole rush of our families leaving. And I think why other charter schools did, unfortunately.
Yeah, and
yes.
Pardon me.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I talked to Ms. Colleen today about, I said, because a few weeks ago, we hadn't really had anyone that left. We have had about 6 families leave, but they've moved and things like that. But we have had 2 families directly leave from our, just our virtual to January stance. Sadly, I was hoping for 0 loss, but and we've been in contact with those families, and they just felt that they wanted to make a change because they felt that they, either went with their neighborhood school. I think both of them went with neighborhood school. Maybe the other one maybe was private, but anyhow, so unfortunately.
Principal Pepe Phelps, am I correct in thinking that there's still space? There is more space in hybrid beyond where we're at right now, correct?
We have 33 in hybrid now, which and it's very multi-age. We've expanded. Well, it's always been multi-age, but we was mostly concentrated in the kindergarten through second or third grade, and now we've gone up through fifth grade. I think we have almost every grade represented now in hybrid, and I think at this point in time, and often after Oasis, when we don't have any other funding, we unless it's a kind of special circumstance, and then nobody oftentimes comes looking in the past for coming into hybrid after Oasis. But I think we have decided that we are going to kind of keep the numbers the way they are right now, because it's a good amount of students, 33, that our hybrid teacher has basically monthly parent-teacher conferences with. And so, and daily. I mean, she speaks with her hybrid families each day, all through the day, to helping them with curriculum, helping them plan lessons, all kinds of things. So I think that she has expressed that she's sort of maxed where she is multi-age wise. And so we're not, we haven't had anybody request it, but I think.
Okay. Yeah. I only asked that because when it was happening that families were needing to make that decision, and they were starting to realize and learn that the local opportunities for homeschooling were getting tapped out. They were maxed out. They had nowhere to go. So I'm just forward thinking and thinking about potential growth opportunities, and that's the question, right? Is what is the capacity and what is the desire? Because we could find ourselves in a circumstance that if this continues into another school year, that our community might be able to serve greater needs around that.
Absolutely. And I have actually always kept that window open for hybrid, thinking about alternative locations for other kinds of class opportunities and things like that. So I appreciate that forward thinking and understand, and I do hope the board understands that as the costs of our staff continue to rise, which thankfully we have staff members that are staying for years on end and get trained and then stay to play out their whole experience with their classes and then loop back. That's a great thing to have. But with that comes the cost of teachers that have been teaching for a long time, and teachers that have continued education and things like that. So our costs will continue to rise in our school, and our income will be essentially fixed if we don't plan for other possibilities for additional income. And I think that can come through the vehicle of our hybrid program. And there's a variety of ways that could happen.
Shayna, thank you for sharing this. I want to draw this budget discussion to a close now. It's okay with everyone, so we can move on. Grant committee, do we have anything to report?
Peter, do you want to go, or should I give it a wing?
Go for it.
All right. Well, we've been fairly inactive the last couple of weeks, but we do have some tasks ahead of us that Principal Pepe Phelps and the wonderful Colleen Morris kindly helped us with. Colleen suggested several things that we could get to work on in terms of funding. A lot of which I think are being sort of addressed or have been addressed to certain extents by the WPG, who I'll reiterate here today is really motivated to seek, work hard to find sources of money for Winterberry. But there were a couple of things that we had discussed. Some outside lighting, maybe an outside chance that we could find some funding for outside lighting. It's something that I think Peter and I are going to have to circle back and talk about later this month and next month. I don't know what, if anything, we identified any options for that, but it's something that we could try for. Ski equipment, we're always looking for funding for ski equipment, especially for grades 5 to 8 and 6 to 8. And there are a couple of options for that, which we have applied to and successfully applied to in years past, and that's Ski for Kids. That has a deadline of April 30 for the application for that, and the Alaska Ski Education Foundation. But for that other one, also has a spring deadline. We need to find a match, and I don't know, to be honest, who we found a match for that in years past, but we'll have to do that. Last year, I think we had 30, according to Kalisa, who is just wonderful and works with the WPG. She said we had 30 sets of skis for 3rd to 4th grade last year. And also, we might need some ski club volunteers. That's not really grants, but it is a form of giving, and maybe the grants committee could take a role in helping with that somehow. For the strings program, which we're always hopeful we can move forward on, I think there was some discussion about meeting with Ira Perman at the Atwood Foundation. I'm not sure where we're at with that, but it's something that the grants committee needs to work on. And there were a couple of other things, but those were the highlights. And yep, so that's the grants committee report. We anticipate having something more for you next month. Any questions?
I have a quick question. I know you mentioned that the ski club and working with Kalisa, and I was wondering if you guys work closely with the WPG, because I do know, that we've had ski grants in the past, and I was just wondering how much of an overlap there is.
There's probably mostly a WPG project. I'm guessing that's what they were doing last year through the WPG. But Kalisa is working on I think she meets with WPG regularly. And she didn't, with some emails that we exchanged, she didn't indicate that there's been any hard conversation about that yet. But again, that application's in April or in the spring. So thank you. Yes, the WPG is doing a great job.
Thank you, Alex. I'm loving all the ski news. This is near to my heart, and I just think it's so great that we have this to offer our kiddos at Winterberry. It's just such a gift, especially given our location. So that's great. All right, let's move on. All right, so we just have our amended agenda with our one item of business, which is the formation of a committee, a special committee to talk about 3rd quarter opening plans. And this is a working group to assess what our response will be as a charter council, similar to last time. So I guess my question is who wants to be a part of this? And how will the aims of this committee differ from before? So I'll open
Susanna,
it up.
this is Jessie. I would like to once again serve on that committee. And my hope would be is that the committee can follow a similar structure that it did last time, just to be as inclusive as possible, ensuring that faculty and surveying families, that model is upheld once again with looking at next steps.
I would agree, Jesse. I don't know if to what extent we need to consider inviting the public to the committee meetings for that one. But I would just suggest, I'd kind of like to be part of it too. And my focus would just be on that issue mostly, because of the sensitive nature of the subject.
Just to uphold transparency.
Transparency is pretty important, especially for this thing. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, agreed.
And I'm just gonna throw out some opinion, that the disease transmission curve is looking pretty grisly right now. But if you look historically at other locations that have already gone through the worst part of it, and extrapolate and apply it to us and just make some inferences, it might be a more a less clear-cut decision than it has been in the past. So more contentious potentially. So more transparency would be even more important.
And that begs a question on how the committee would proceed with committee work by email too. I mean, so I hear you on transparency, but there's just some of the work that needs to be had with drafting and so forth. So considerations around that, just to be nimble, is important.
Of course.
Well, I just attended an Open Meetings Act, and it obviously the Open Meetings Act is all about the necessity and the importance of being transparent. And basically, if more than 2 people from the WCC meet, it needs to be noticed, and it needs to have the ability for people to attend, which would look like I guess in this setting, that would look like YouTube.
And hanging a notice on the front door of the school may not be satisfying some of the requirements of that act. So we're thinking maybe emails to the entire school noticing those meetings?
Yeah, we permanently have noticed this meeting on our website. So we have that. And then I would say ongoingly to send out in the time frame that is required a notice for a committee meeting to the whole school, through what we call it's called Blackboard. And it just is the great thing about Blackboard compared to Constant Contact or Winterberry Business is that you can send people text messages, which we know from our society that a text message is a very friendly way of getting people's attention, even to direct them to checking their email. So it's very effective. So anyhow, yeah, those meetings, I think you're very correct in your words, Alex, about the fact that during these times, that this topic specifically, but in general terms, from my recent fresh Open Meetings Act training, will definitely be any committee work. Anything beyond 2 people essentially needs to be noticed and made public. So that, and that means that there are no emails that go around discussing any kind of business having to do with the WCC.
It's
based on my understanding, just to totally confirm, the email serves as the function of scheduling the meeting and any details around the mechanics of it, but not any content of the meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are more subtle ways of going about it too. I mean, if you're, I don't want to turn this into an Open Meetings Act meeting here, but if you're, sort of corralling, you're sending out multiple emails to send the communication out in a circle to all the people on the, say, grants committee, that sort of, it's like you're involving more than, your plan is to involve more than two people. It gets kind of the tricky little nuances there. So it's hard to comply even for the most well-intentioned person, I think. So it's hard.
Yeah.
A quick question about, I mean, is this, since the last time we did the survey, have there been, like why, I guess what led to tonight's discussion, has there been sort of concern expressed by the Winterberry community about the work of the committee that was done recently, or is it just coming from somewhere else?
No, I don't think there's been any complaints or problems that I know of, but I just think it's such a sensitive topic that I just think we should be careful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also, Paula, that's a good question. I think it has to do with, decisions that we made last time may not be relevant the next time around, because months and months will have dragged on. And if nothing else, the necessity of a survey, I think, is pretty clear, because a family may be doing okay in October, but if they're thinking of January and they're still facing a virtual schooling option, they might just be hanging on till January. And if the committee and the board votes for that, I think we really need to have, I think, like Alex said, it's a different discussion. So different this time around. Sorry, I need coffee.
It's okay. This is Jessie. I just wonder, just for the purposes of that business item of, and considering what we're talking about with the need to more broadly invite the community to a committee meeting like this, that's going to take time, and especially to let them have some notice, and then we have a holiday in the midst. I'm wondering if tonight it would be appropriate for the WCC to request the staff to proceed with another survey of parents, so that ball is rolling and it can help inform those next steps of the committee.
That's a possibility. The thing that we were, that I was thinking about is having that committee craft the questions. Have that committee have an input in what, because we know from what we know about statistics, it's really about how the questions are crafted to get the kind of data that you're seeking. And I think that it would be helpful. It would be helpful for me to have people to participate in that question crafting.
Would the questions be significantly different than what they were last time?
I mean, I guess it's part of that conversation. We'll sit down and we'll say, okay, what kinds of information are we trying to get? And then we'll look at what kinds of questions that we will ask to gather the kind of information that we're seeking. So it's it's all embedded in itself.
But at the heart of it, are we're querying the community about whether they would feel comfortable returning to in-person learning, or whether they would feel more comfortable doing continuing with the virtual learning. Is that?
Well, they have
refresh my memory.
Well, okay. Well, they have the option. Everyone at Winterberry has the option of continuing to be virtual till the end of the year. I guess the question, if I'm, gonna try and conjure it up here right now, is something along the lines of, if if the numbers were the same as they are right now, when January 4th gets here, would you send your child back to school? But see, so much is wrapped up in that because, and ASD is opening, like, well, so now the numbers are the way they are, and it will get to the heart of what people are looking at and what their concerns are. And because those things are changing ongoingly as well. I mean, every person has a different comfort level. Every person has different needs. I guess for us, we obviously will not open our doors to the greater community unless ASD is opening their doors. So that's a good beginning point. The next element of that is, as a community, if 95% of the people surveyed say, and we have a large survey number, they say, no, I would not come back and I won't come back. My decision is not. Then we will take and kind of formulate possibly another plan to capture the groups that are really needing to come back and put, an added effort into our virtual program with our current teachers. So, there's a variety of ways of kind of navigating through this very unusual time. So if we can get some information about people's comfort levels, then we can start to formulate like plan A, plan B, plan C, and then get ready to throw it all out, which is what we did, just recently when things weren't going to open and we were, anyhow. So there's a variety of ways. Yeah, Lisa.
I just wanted to call note to the idea that in the last survey that we had, it wasn't clearly delineated for families that there is the possibility that when students come back to face-to-face instruction, that there could be a time when they are not able to attend because quarantining is having to happen in their classroom. And so I think capturing the idea in a survey that goes forward, that presents to families how, something like how successful would your family be in a situation where schooling starts in person, but then it has to stop. So, I mean, I think that there are ways to really, in the questions that we write, describe some different possible scenarios so families have a good idea of what they're looking forward to in a real world setting. I just wanted to put that out there. That's some of the conversation that's been happening in faculty meeting.
That's really helpful to hear. Thank you, Lisa. And I know I hear the group in terms of a desire to move it towards committee. I think there's value in the fact that we have this time together. And so please, forgive me, but I'm going to ask another question because I think this can really help inform the next step. So are there any other things that you saw that could have been stronger in the previous survey? For the WCC members today, is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you would like to see changed moving forward? Okay. My suggestion, and I'd love, go ahead, Lisa.
Sarah, do you want to ask your question and then we'll see if it dovetails with mine?
Well, mine is not.
No, I'd like to hear from you first.
Okay, Sarah has some things she'd like to say.
I was just going to say, to add no clarity at all to the situation. It is, we're stuck in this situation where January is right around the corner, and we have to have a good idea of what the community would like, what they need, without leading the question. But then we also, on the other hand, do not know what the district is going to do. And that was one thing that came up in faculty meeting, whether or not, Principal Pepe Phelps knew from discussions with the district what they were going to do, and they don't know yet. So it's an incredibly impossible situation to try and figure out what direction your community is going without knowing what the possibilities are that lay ahead. And so I just wanted to say that. It doesn't add.
No, I think that's a great, I'll let Lisa go. I just will say thank you.
Well,
Lisa.
I mean, it kind of is along the same lines as what Sarah is bringing up, and that could be a question that is an additional question that wasn't on the past survey that we had, is something to the effect of, if ASD decides to open to a certain population of students, what will Winterberry's reaction be to that, and how does, what do Winterberry families want? If ASD is opening, for example, their plan was to open for pre-K through second grade. At that time, Winterberry was set to be offering to our high critical needs families in-person instruction for our K through 8 population. So I think it's important for Winterberry to keep in mind what ASD is thinking, and then have a response for what our protocol is going to be, and whether or not we're going to be offering programming in person for our whole student body or a portion of our student body, and what that portion of the student body, if that's what we choose, looks like. So again, it's kind of what ASD is doing and how we mirror that or don't.
Well, and just a reminder that we wouldn't be able to be less conservative than the district. So if they're K2, we couldn't be full K8.
Yeah, no, I mean, the reason that they're K2 is that the grade span doesn't change the conservative elements of things. It's the numbers. They did K2 because they have 4 kindergartens, and it's just their numbers in their building. That's what their decision was, to bring back, so they could space those kids out throughout the school. So we, if we did K8 with critical needs, and we spaced a handful of a percentage of our population out over our whole school building, it would be the same kind of, it'd be the same, we're looking for the safety element in that. So anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's, with respect to transparency, if you're presenting all of your metrics, if you just let everyone know what the types of criteria, just like you just described, as part of your decision-making process, and then apply it to, the survey, and say, if we were to use this metric, because what it does is it lets people plan, because they can watch the numbers, they can watch the school district, they can watch the Anchorage Health Department on their own and feel sort of more empowered. So as long as this survey embodies those things, I think we'll be fine.
Can I ask who else wants to serve on this committee?
I'd be happy to serve on it.
Okay. Thank you, Paula.
Doesn't sound like anybody's beating the door down though to join us.
No, it sounds like we have a committee of 3 with myself, Paula, and Alex. Is that correct?
Just because there's only 3 of us doesn't mean that other people can't come, right? It's going to be publicly noticed
on it as well.
Okay, Mark,
thank you. And so my next just question then, just so that we are going to be really effective in that meeting, is, if staff feel like they've heard enough feedback, I think it's helpful for a group to look at language and then refine language versus wordsmithing in a committee setting around a table. So would it be a good first step to request Principal Pepe Phelps for there to be some sort of a draft for us to look at and work with in that committee meeting?
Sure.
Thank you. And then my next question is, you know, does that, you know, we can work offline to at least set our meeting and then it needs to be put out, but I would really encourage us to try and meet very soon before December, if at all possible.
So I think next week, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday seems like a reasonable time to have an initial meeting where I could email, or actually, let's see, no. I can present the draft to you at that meeting. And, you know, I'll share my screen and I'll present the draft of possible questions, and then we can discuss and refine those questions. And then I'll take that draft back and or I could do it while we're sitting there. And that way we'd have something to bring back to the WCC in maybe like a special meeting or something to get.
Well, so I would wonder if we would want the WCC to empower the committee to take the work forward. I mean, that's what was done prior, and I think that was a good process. That's just a suggestion.
That would be my inclination, Jesse.
And then my only other follow-up question, and it is my last question, is does that timeline work for Open Meetings Act? How many days do we need to give the full community awareness of a future meeting that they're invited to?
24 hours, ideally.
Okay, great. Well, perhaps we can look to Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Jesse, thank you for your questions and contributions to this, helping us guide this.
When would the survey be issued? Just out of curiosity, I imagine sometime in December, mid-December, something like that.
I was hoping early December. Like I was thinking right after Thanksgiving. Because then we would have, because once, and I know that the request from in surveying, when I did that sort of quick turnaround outdoor survey, I had some feedback from the WPG that parents wanted a little bit more time. What? You want more time than 24 hours? Anyway, so I want to honor that and give families time and let, results, and then just continue to push out the request and the link so that we can get as close to 100% of response, 100% of the reflection of our community to respond to that survey. So we know that, most everyone has seen it and had it some kind of contributing element to it. And it's also really nice to have a portion of a survey where people get to make a comment. I found that really valuable to pull information, but then they take a long time to read, 200 and something comments. So, and then read those comments and then bring them into, just sort of, process the comments into what it is that what they mean and how we're going to use that data.
Now I'm unmuted. Jesse brings up a really good point. I need a motion from somebody to empower the committee to proceed with creating the survey and crafting a plan with community involvement for third quarter reopening. Is there anyone who can make a motion for that?
committee to Jessie Menkins. Where are you on this? She's always the motion maker. I'll make the motion.
I'm on the committee. I should not make the motion.
She's such a good motion maker. I'll make a motion to form a committee to craft a survey to assess the Winterberry community needs for Q3.
And the salient point for this is to empower the committee to proceed. Okay, do we have a second for that motion?
This is Sue, and I second that motion.
All right, thank you. Twinkle? All right.
I'm twinkling.
Thank you. So we have a committee and the wheels will be slowly turning. I really appreciate everyone's commitment to transparency in this. I think if I can sound a little bit like a mom for a minute, our children really respond well to boundaries. It makes them feel safe. And I also think our community really responds well to the greater community, the transparency. I think it makes people feel safe and know that we're working for them because that's who we're working for. So thank you all for, especially Alex, for bringing it up because it's important, even though it can be sort of a pain in the neck as well. So if we don't have any further business, let's move on to gratitude. But I just want to leave it open if there's any last points anyone wanted to raise before we move on. All right. Is there any gratitude that folks would like to express?
I'd like to express gratitude for this board and for the support that I feel running this school in these times, and how kind of, every day brings new decisions that are really don't have any base in historical or recent historical ability to find out what that was or why somebody decided that. So it's in that way also it's interesting, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the challenge of my job and how it helps me to grow as a person and a leader. And I'm grateful for this board because I feel a huge amount of support. I don't feel like I'm pushing against or feeling just put upon in a way that I can't. I feel a great amount of gratitude and appreciation, but also trust. And I really appreciate that.
I kind of wanted to echo that, Julie. I am really grateful for the dedication and thoughtfulness and heartfelt passion of this board. So I really appreciate you all.
I'm really grateful the attempts that have occurred in individual classes to assist families who are all dealing with COVID to receive meals from classes. And the teachers kind of coordinating that. I think that that's just a really sweet thing to do. And I appreciate that on top of everything else that they're taking care of, that teachers would take the time to do that. I thought that was great.
I just want to put a shout out once again to the teachers that my kiddos have, and the specialty teachers and everything that keep them going. They're getting on. Viv's stuff is just, she grumbles, but her main lesson book is on point, because that's who she is. But you know, she's got her own little schedule. I mean, she may not come back to school, but she's loving her bubble. But Jake is, you know, can't wait to get back to school. So, but he is, you know, showing up for, he's getting better at finding his schedule and figuring it out. And so, and the specialty classes and stuff like that. If he could only really love handwork, that would be great. But Miss Robichaux is not giving up on him. So, so I just wanted to, just grateful for all of you teachers that have that are on this call, and all of them that are not on this call.
This is Jessie. I want to just share gratitude for now knowing what it's like to have a child go from kindergarten all through 8th grade, and then see them enter a mainstream high school. Hatcher petitioned and got into West. That was the school he wanted to go to. For a while, he thought he had to go to Stellar. He really wanted to go to West, and he got in, and he had an extraordinary first quarter. You know, I think he's like ranked 3rd in his class, like doing really, really well. And Miss Glasser, you know, you did that, and you helped get him ready. And he loves to learn. And even though he didn't know really how to use a computer very well, he's really tackling a lot of new technology with a lot of grace. He is the only kid in all of his classes to date still this time around that keeps his webcam on, and he does that for respect. And he is thriving. So thank you to Winterberry, and thank you to Miss Glasser for everything you've done for our son.
I'll just dovetail on that. I feel extreme amounts of gratitude to the teachers and the staff. They're just going out of their way to keep the girls connected, keep them learning, make time in their schedules for one-on-one sessions with my girls, and you know, it just makes all the difference. So I'm just so happy that they're at this school and getting this education. And I appreciate everybody showing up for these meetings and, you know, working hard and caring about the community. So thank you very much.
I was just going to say, I know that it was mentioned in the both Principal Pepe Phelps report and the faculty report, but I have an immense amount of gratitude for the parents, especially sitting as the 1st grade teacher. When I see the pictures of the work come in or little videos of kids doing things, it is not without a tremendous effort on the parents' behalf. So.
Thank you, everyone. Before we adjourn, I wanted to do something a little different. I want to read you all a poem. I hope that's okay. I can't see your faces right now because I'm looking at the at the poem, but this is a poem that I've been thinking about a lot with the pandemic, but also with our community. It's called Kindness by Naomi Shihab Nye, and I might cry, but you know, it's fine. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things, feel the future dissolve in a moment like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop, the passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore, only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to gaze at bread, only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. I'm grateful for all of you, and thank you for showing up over and over and over again on Zoom in what has felt like a very, very long year. And I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving next week. All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
I move to adjourn.
A second?
This is Sue. I second.
All right. All in favor? All right. Be well, all of you. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk soon.
Susanna, can you share out that poem?
Yes. Yep. I will send it in the email.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Stay well, everyone.